طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم. So continuing on inshallah with the events of Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment itself. Last time we discussed some of the names of the day of judgment and the beginning aspects of that day. Inshallah, today we'll try to finish basically in a summarized version what's going to occur. And we can't say with like 100% accuracy that the events of Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be like in this order particularly, because there's no clear narration or ayah that tells us the exact order. So it's basically like the ijtihad of the ulama, the thought process of the scholars trying to come up with putting the different hadith together and the different ayat, how the events will somewhat occur. So inshallah I'll go in line with basically the majority of the scholars inshallah. There's some differences, so you might find some different explanations or some different order. But inshallah, I'll try my best to mention the events in a summarized version. Of course, this can take many sessions, but we'll try to get it done inshallah this evening. So we know after the trumpet is blown that everything will pass away, right? Those things that were not already dead will die. And we said there are some exemptions according to some scholars. We mentioned that last time. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. That the trumpet will be blown, and all that is in the heavens and in the earth will fall dead or fall asunder, except those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses to spare. And then it will be blown again, and everybody will rise up at one time. Right, and that's Surah Zumar. And it's Surah Yasin. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَإِذَا هُمْ مِنَ الْجَدَاثِ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَنْسِلُونَ. The time when the trumpet is blown the second time, then behold, the people will be rushing forth from their graves. The distance, time between the first blowing of the trumpet and the second blowing of the trumpet, it's not particularly known. There are some narrations that say that it's 40. 40 days, 40 weeks, 40 months, 40 years, Allahu A'lam. And some say no, those hadith are not specific. There's no specific time. Allah knows best how long the time will be from the time that the people everybody's dead and the time that the resurrection starts. So anyways, after this time period, everybody will be in their graves. They will be disintegrated. And in some narrations it says just the tailbone will be left, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will send down a rain, and the rain will come and water the bodies. Every single body that had ever existed, from Adam into the last man, the raindrop will reach that tailbone, and the bodies will grow. It will come back to a human body. And then the souls will be brought back into those bodies, right? And there's a difference amongst the scholars, do the souls die or do not die? We don't want to get into that, but basically the general consensus is that everything is passing away except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and those that Allah has chosen to exempt, like we said, the people of Jannah possibly. And so they will sprout just like, when the water hits the seeds and the seeds start to sprout and grow from the ground. The same thing with the bodies will grow like that, and then the souls will be brought. And then the universe will change as it has never been before, right? The earthquake will happen, and the Prophet ﷺ will be the first to be resurrected, and then after him, everybody else. And they will be resurrected without their clothing, and they will be uncircumcised. We mentioned that hadith last week. And Aisha, radiallahu anha, she said, how will people be when they are without clothes? Like, won't they be looking at each other? And the Prophet ﷺ said that the affair will be more serious that day for them to be concerned about that matter. And then who was the first to get clothed? Anybody remember? Nobody remembers? So everybody is resurrected and they will be without clothing and uncircumcised. And there's a narration that says that the first person to be clothed will be from the prophets, of course. Close. Isa? No. Close. Who's the Abu al-Anbiya? Yes, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He will be the first to be clothed, and then everybody according to their good deeds. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Anbiya, and then the Saliheen, right? And then the changing of the universe. So يوم تبدل الأرض غير الأرض والسماوات مطويات, right? والسماوات وبرزوا لله الواحد القهار. That the earth will change into another earth. It'll be something completely different, right? وإذا الشمس كورت وإذا النجوم انكدرت وإذا الجبال سيرت وإذا العشار عطلت وإذا الوحوش أشرت وإذا البحار سجرت, right? Everything is going to change. The stars that used to be up in the sky shining bright and beautiful and guiding will be falling down. The skies will be split apart. The ocean that used to be water will be set of flames, right? The mountains that were so strong, the strongest thing holding the earth together, will become like wool, floating or disappearing or being destroyed. And then we'll end up with just a flat plain, nothing left. And everybody will be gathered. Once the trumpet is blown again, everybody will be walking towards al-mahshar, the plane of the gathering, where everybody will be judged. The different groups of people will be in different states that day, right? So the kuffar, the disbelievers, will be in the worst of states and the worst of affairs. You'll find some that are like cursing one another. الأخلاء يومئذ بعضهم لبعض عدو إلا المتقين. Right, the closest of companions, the homeboys, the best beloved to each other, will be enemies, cursing one another on that day. Because why? They led each other into being astray. So they will have what they thought was love was a fake love, and they will have hatred on that day. Right? Some of the fathers will run away from their children, the mothers from their children, the wives from the husbands, the husbands from the wives, the brothers from each other. This is the state of the disbelievers. One of extreme fear and anxiety and chaos, right? And then we have the sinful ones. There will be there's some specific narrations about specific sins and their state, Yawm al-Qiyamah. So for example, the ones that didn't pay the zakat. ولا تحسبن الذين يبخلون بما آتاهم الله من فضله هو خير لهم بل هو شر لهم سيطوقون ما بخلوا به يوم القيامة. Do not think that the ones who are stingy, like holding back the zakat, not paying the zakat, that's good for them, like they're saving some money. No, it is evil for them. In the day of judgment, they will have like a collar tied to their neck because of their stinginess, right? And then there's some narrations about the arrogant ones, mutakabbirin. This is from the Muslims that were grave sinners. They will come like ants on the day of judgment, right? They were so proud and boastful and arrogant and assumingly powerful. They will come like ants that you could step on the day of judgment. Also, the sins that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He would not speak to that person. We mentioned this last time already. So there are certain categories of people, certain sins that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will not look at them or not speak to them Yawm al-Qiyamah as a form of punishment. This is the ones إن الذين يشترون بعهد الله وإيمانهم ثمنا قليلا أولئك لا خلاق لهم في الآخرة ولا يكلمهم الله ولا ينظر إليهم يوم القيامة ولا يزكيهم لهم عذاب أليم. That those who purchased basically the cost of Allah's promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the share of the dunya, basically they will have no portion in the akhirah, and Allah will not speak with them, nor He will look at them, nor will He purify them, and they will have a severe punishment. Also, the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who drags his thobe below his ankles, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at him Yawm al-Qiyamah. Many of the scholars of Hadith say that this is the ones who do it out of arrogance, out of kibr, right? Because there's another Hadith that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he only had very few izars, and one of the izars he had didn't fit him too well, and it would fall, and it would go below his ankle. and he heard the hadith and he was very scared, and he went to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, the Prophet told him, "Lasta min taf'alu khuyara," that you're not the one who does it out of arrogance. So Imam Nawawi, I believe, and others say that the ones who are not doing it out of arrogance, inshallah, don't fall under that category, but it's better to avoid it if you can, right? And the other scholars say it doesn't apply to like pants or something like that, but specifically with thobes and izars and stuff like that, because in Jahiliyyah, why is this the case? If you look at the shuruh, the explanations, is because the Arab, they would drag their thiyab, meaning that I have money to burn. Like, I don't care about these clothings, right? I'm so rich I could buy another one. So they don't care if it's dragging on them. That's arrogance and kibr, right? So that was the main reasoning. So if a person is, wearing extravagant clothing out of arrogance and stuff like that, it could apply. But inshallah, if they're doing it not for the sake of arrogance, but just, the size doesn't fit exactly or something like that, inshallah, they won't be held in that category. Also, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the one who, the old man who commits zina, adultery, and the king who lies, and the poor man who is arrogant. These three, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look upon them on Yawm al-Qiyamah out of a punishment to them. Right? Why? Because usually the old man, when he's very old in age, he should not have this lowly desires like that and still be chasing women around and having intercourse outside of wedlock, right? And then the king, he is the most powerful person in his, area, so why should he have to lie? Lying is only for the cowards, that if you're not in a position of power, you have to lie. So why would a king have to lie? And then, of course, the poor person who is arrogant, you have no right to be arrogant, you're poor. So, if you're like combining the problem of poverty along with arrogance, it's a very, bad look, basically. So these are some things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them. Also, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the youth. The youth is the one who does have no ghira, or jealousy for his women folk. He doesn't care how his mother or his sister or his wife or his daughters dress. If they go out, if they mix with men, if they have relations with men, they don't care. They don't have no jealousy. This is also somebody that falls into that category. The ones who are disobedient or cruel to their parents. This is another category that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them, right? And they will not be purified Yawm al-Qiyamah. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the ones who swear false oaths to sell something, right? Like, for example, they're selling a car. They know the car is something wrong with the car, and they don't tell the person, and they say, by Allah, this car is perfectly fine, it's the best, etc., etc., and they're lying, and they know they're lying. This is very dangerous. Right? Also, there's some narrations that say the one who has intercourse with his wife through the passage that is not allowed, from the other side, that also is someone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at Yawm al-Qiyamah. And then the ones who the very rich ones that live in luxury and they withhold their wealth from the poor in society. Like, they don't give sadaqah or they don't give zakat, and they have the most wealth, right? These people also, it's narrated, the Prophet said, they will be held for a long time, Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? Because they will be having more hisab. The ones who have the most wealth, they have the longest time period of being taken into account. Also, the betrayer, the one who is like a kha'in, he will have like a flag attached to him to show his betrayal in front of everybody. Also, al-ghulul, the one who he stole from the war booty, right? The spoils of war. When the Muslim armies conquer a place and they have spoils of war, and somebody takes from that without the Imam dividing it to him, he also will have a severe punishment on the Day of Judgment. Anybody who takes land unjustly or by force, also they will have a severe punishment. The two-faced person, he acts one way with somebody, in another way with somebody else. Also, there's a hadith about that he will have an evil ending or evil resurrection, basically. He will have a tongue of fire, according to some narrations. Like because he talks one way with one person, he talks another way with another person, then on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, his tongue will be set afire. Also, the ruler who does not care about his people. This also, they will have a severe punishment Yawm al-Qiyamah. And the one who begs without having the need to beg, or they're capable of working and they don't want to work, right? These people, they will come, their faces melting Yawm al-Qiyamah. Some narrations say that the one who spits towards the Kaaba, he also will, like the Prophet said, that whoever spits towards the Qibla on the day of Zurshak, he will have like spit falling all over his face, basically, like in disgrace. The scholars are a difference of opinion of this hadith. Like, does it mean only in the salah, or like only at Mecca when you're in front of the Kaaba, or is it just in general? There's a difference. Some say that it's specific, like in the salah or when you're in front of the Kaaba, and some say in general, if you can avoid it, just like when you're using the bathroom, try to avoid it out of respect for the Qibla and for the Haram and the Kaaba. And so we don't follow under that hadith. Another one of the sinners punished Yawm al-Qiyamah is the one who lies about his dreams. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever speaks of a dream that he did not see will be told to tie like the impossible together, and he will not be able to do that. And whoever eavesdrops on the conversations of people, they will have molten lead poured into their ears, right? So 2 things basically. Lying about the dreams is a big sin, major sin, that will be punished Yawm al-Qiyamah. And eavesdropping, like trying to spy on people, listening to their conversation without their permission, right? And then spreading that is also another sin. So these are some of for the sinful ones, Yawm al-Qiyamah, that they will have a specific punishment. So we have the kuffar, the worst of states, the sinful ones, they have these punishments. And then there is the believers. From the gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the mu'mineen is that they will be exempt from the punishments Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the believers, because we feared Allah in the dunya, we held back from the sins in this dunya, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the aman Yawm al-Qiyamah. ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون لهم البشرى في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة لا تبديل لكلمات الله ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. That no doubt the awliya of Allah, they will have no fear upon them, nor shall they grieve. Those who believed and he feared Allah by abstaining from the evil and doing the good and doing the righteous deeds, they will have the glad tidings in this life and the next. Yes. So they will be punished. No, the sinful from the Muslims, yeah. Jazakallah khair. So disbelievers, sinful ones of the Muslims, and then the righteous ones. فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا. That Allah saved them from the evil of that day, and they gave them like the light of beauty, right? And joy. And they will be given paradise and silken garments. وهم من فزع يومئذ آمنون. And they will be saved from the scary part of that day on the day of judgment. So this is for the believers, subhanAllah. And we know different hadith for the ones who will be in Allah's shade, for example. يوم لا ظل إلا ظله, right? There will be people under the shade of Allah, the day there will be no shade except His shade. Does anybody know who those people are? There's 7 categories, yes.
Is there one that's like 2 brothers, they come together and they become apart for the sake of Allah?
2 people who love each other for the sake of Allah, yes.
One who cries in silence and reads an ayah.
One who cries, there's some narrations about that, who cries for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ones whose hearts are attached to the masjid. A young one who grows up in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A just ruler. the one who spends so much in the cause of Allah that even his left hand doesn't know what, or he spends secretly for the cause of Allah that his left hand doesn't even know that his right hand is spending. And then one more. Anybody? What's that? So I'm trying to remember myself. Just ruler, the one شاب نشأ في طاعة الله رجلان يتحابان في الله. So the one grown up in the obedience of Allah, two brothers or two people that love each other for the sake of Allah, the one that gives in charity basically, the one whose heart is attached to the masjid. The one that gives, what's the other one before we get to that? The one that gives in charity, and then the one who withholds himself from temptation by a beautiful woman. She calls him, and she has good lineage and wealth, etc., and beauty, and she calls someone to fall into sin, and that person refuses for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, some narrations say that the one who forgives the debt of another person, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put him in his shade yawm al-qiyamah. The one who strives to fulfill the needs of the Muslims or the others, to be helpful for the others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him shade on the yawm al-qiyamah. The one who gives relief to man yassara ala mu'assarin, right? The one who gives ease to the one that's going through hardship. And the one who is a righteous ruler who gives proper judgment, inshallah, he will be in the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course the shuhada, the martyrs, and the murabitun, the ones who stand to guard the lands of the Muslims. Also the ones who control their anger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them a special favor yawm al-qiyamah because they held back. Whoever controls his anger for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will call before him all the creation and let him choose, basically, so he will be honored yawm al-qiyamah, and then in Jannah he will be chosen to give the hurul ayn, whichever hurul ayn that he wants. Also the ones who free the slaves, ransom the prisoners or the slaves, get them out. Also the mu'addin, he will have a high reward yawm al-qiyamah that will be known by their long necks, because they used to call the adhan a beautiful thing, a beautiful honor. Some say that they will be given prominence over the creation because they're calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're calling the people to the prayer. Also the ones who grow gray hairs in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you grow old in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a good, inshallah, blessing from Allah azza wa jal. You can still die and it still counts, inshallah. But also the ones who make wudu a lot, they will have special light yawm al-qiyamah. And there's some others, inshallah. So there will be different states of the people on the Day of Judgment, but the believers, inshallah, they will be, at ease, basically, as a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after this part, people will be gathered to their hawd, the basins, right? So every ummah will go to their hawd. Every prophet has their own basin where they would give drink to their followers. There's, like I said, a difference of opinion of this is at this time or later on, but some say this time because there's another hadith that says some people will be turned away from the hawd. So the believers will get to drink from this hawd, and once they drink from it, they will never go thirsty again. Right? So our hawd with the Prophet ﷺ, it's described as like the cups are like the number of stars in the sky. The color of the liquid is whiter than milk and sweeter than honey, and whoever drinks from it will never go thirsty again. And it says that some people will be coming to the hawd and the angels will turn them away, and the Prophet ﷺ will say, ummati ummati, my ummah, my ummah, and the angels will say, la tadri ma ahdathu ba'dak, you don't know what they did after you, right? So this means that some people will be not able to drink from the hawd, from the different ummah. Like we said, the sky will be split asunder. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels will come down from the 7 heavens, all the different levels, the angels will come and descend. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. He will come for the judgment, to judge. What's the ayah? وَجَاءَ الْمَلَكُ وَرَبُّكَ صَفًّا صَفًّا وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ. Right? That the angels will come in lines, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come, and Allah will judge. And it says that Allah will be, the throne of Allah will be carried, right, for Him to start the judgment. Then the creation will go before Allah for the hisab. At this point, it is like the most anxious part of Yawm al-Qiyamah for everybody in a sense. Because, like when you're waiting for an exam or a test, or you're about to get, in a match or a fight or something like that, the building up to that is the most anxious part. People are scared and like trying to figure out what's going on, and they just want to get it over with. So the people at that time will be making dua just to like get it over with, and everybody will go to the different prophets to ask Allah to like start the qiyamah, right? They're just so scared of waiting so long, and it's just adding to their anxiety and their distress. Some narrations say that the sun will be coming close to the point where everybody will sweat according to their bad deeds. Some will be, sweating to the ankles, some to the knees, some to the thighs, some to the chest, some all the way up to their mouths, because of the scaredy, the feeling that they have and the anxiety that they have, and the heat from the sun. So they will be asking for the judgment to start, and people will go to their prophets to ask. They will go to Adam, and he will say, "No, I ate from the tree when I was commanded not to." Go to Nuh, and then they will go to Nuh, and then Nuh will say, "No," like he made dua, or he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something he's not supposed to ask when he asked intercession for his son, right? Go to Ibrahim. They will go to Ibrahim, and then Ibrahim will say, "No, I told 3, like untruths," but they were like basically tawri'ah, not really lies, but they were something that he felt uncomfortable with. In that case, he was scared himself also. He said, "Go to Musa." Then Musa will remember that he hit somebody and caused that person to die, right? And he'll say, "Go to Isa." And Isa, he won't mention any particular mistake, but he will say, "It is not for me, go to Muhammad." And then everybody will go to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he will say, "Ana laha, ana laha." This is for me, this is for me. And then he will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bow down in sujood and make du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even taught him, that he never repeated before, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants the hisab to start. And this is that everybody will be brought forth to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be spoken to directly for the judgment. Yes. It seems most likely that the kuffar will be separated at this point. But they will be brought forth for judgment as well. Their judgment is like their own limbs will testify against them, right? يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ سَمْعُهُمْ بَصَارُهُمْ, right? That their hearing and their eyes will testify them, their arjuluhum wa aydihim, their hands and their feet will testify against them. Their mouths will be shut and they can't say anything. Their own body is going to testify against them as humiliation, right, for the sins that they did. And then the believers will be asked in particular about their salah, right? That's the first thing they're going to be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah. And if their salah is correct, then inshallah everything else afterwards will be easier. And if it's not, then it will get more difficult. Their hisab will be stronger and harder. So the more taqwa you have, the more righteousness you have, the easier your hisab will be, right? Because min husiba uddib. Whoever is taken into account, it's a form of kind of like punishment. Just to be taken into account in and of itself, because you're going through that fear, it's kind of like a little bit of punishment. But the more righteous you are, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for you. So for the believers, it will be very smooth and very easy, and they'll get along, go on. For the disbelievers, it will take a very long time, and it will add to their punishment. We don't know for sure, but some say that they innovated in their religion. Some say that they were causing mischief upon the earth. So there's different interpretations, but we don't know for sure exactly which sins. How to avoid? Stay away from sins in general. Also, that the disbelievers and the sinful ones will be like judged openly in front of everybody as a disgrace for them, like an embarrassment for them. Whereas the believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He covers their faults, right? They will be like discreet and just private between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy for the believers. Also, the creation will settle amongst each other, right? Every single living creature will have its right that day, even the animals, even the disbelievers, right? So there will be no injustice left in general. And then, according to some narrations, that's when the scales will be brought forth to weigh the deeds. So the deeds will be physically weighed. And according to their level of weight is how their place will be in Jannah. And according to their level of evil, it will be their place in Jahannam. So darajat and darakat, right? And we know that the deeds are actually physically weighed because, anybody know a hadith about how the deeds are actually physically weighed on the scales? Because some people try to say that the scales are just metaphorical, but no, actually they are actual scales that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala weighs in a way that only Allah knows, but it's to show His justice for us, Yeah.
I'm not sure about the authenticity of the hadith, but in a lecture once I heard that there would be a man who worshipped Allah for several hundred years, and he will question Allah about entering Jannah out of his own worship, and not through the mercy of Allah. Allah will place like His mercy on one side of the scale, and like His deeds on the other, and then the mercy of Allah. Again, I'm not sure about the authenticity.
So there's a narration he's mentioning about one of the people from the children of Israel thought that he could enter into Jannah with his deeds instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And so Allah asked for the angels to weigh every single, he worshipped Allah for over 500 years according to the narration. Some say that narration is not authentic 100%, but it says, they worship Allah for 500 years, no mistakes, no sins. And they weighed all of that worship, and Allah said, just put His eyesight in the scale, and the eyesight outweighed all of that worship. The gift and mercy of Allah's vision for you outweighed all of that worship He did in staying away from sin, subhanAllah. And another narration, you have another one? Or?
Another one I heard was like the sins of a person being placed on one side, and like a scroll that says, La ilaha illallah, placed on another.
Yes, this is called Hadith al-Bataqa. So Bataqa means like card, right? Anybody study overseas? Bataqa ta'rif. You have like a ID card. Anyways, the man will come for judgment and his deeds to be weighed, and Allah will say to bring out his bad deeds, basically, or his deeds, and they will bring books like the size of rooms, basically, full of bad deeds that he did. Books and books and books of all his bad deeds. And this person was like, khalas, I'm done for. Like, there's no way I can get past this now. And then Allah says, no, I am just, bring out his good deeds. And He brought out La ilaha illallah. And He put it in the scale, and subhanAllah, the La ilaha illallah outweighed all of the bad deeds. Because he believed in it and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. So the scales will be brought forth, and everybody will have, their due portion from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to determine which level they will be in the Jannah or in Jahannam. And then there's also every Nabi will have their liwa, or like flag basically. So the ummahs will all gather behind their particular Nabi. So at this point, like we said, most people say that Allah will call the disbelievers. Everybody will follow what the believers will follow their prophets, the ummahs will follow their prophets, and the disbelievers will follow that which they used to worship. So the idol worshippers will follow the idols, the stone worshippers will follow the stones, the ones who worship the stars will follow the stars, etc., right? All into Jahannam. And then there's another categorization. Some say that they will be like the mutakabbirin, the arrogant ones will be with the mutakabbirin, and the fasiqeen, the evil ones will be with the fasiqeen, the mushrikeen with the mushrikeen, etc. So there's different classifications. So everybody will be with their particular group. And then the disbelievers will follow what they used to worship into the hellfire. Right? So now only who's left? Yes, mashallah, you're smart. Not only that, the believers and the munafiqeen, because we said the ummah of the anbiya. So every nabi's ummah will be following. And in the ummah is those who showed their outward Islam, their outward religiosity. So this will include the believers and the hypocrites. Because the hypocrites in the dunya, they showed that they were Muslims, right? Only Allah knows they weren't really Muslim. So this is, subhanAllah, the hikmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to add to their punishment, because in the dunya, they think they got away with fooling people, that they show that they're Muslims and they betrayed the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And now in the akhirah, they're seeing people getting thrown into the hellfire and punished and everything like that, and they're still with the believers. So they're like, maybe they got away with it in the akhirah too, right? But this is going to, as we see, be made clear, it's going to add to their punishment, subhanAllah. So they will be, yes.
Is this like being a nifaq? Is this just on Yom Qiyamah? Is this just those who had like kufr in their heart concealed about deen, or can it also be like someone, as you said earlier, they give like a false hope, and then they like, or they say I'm going to do something?
No, this is for the real hypocrites.
Okay.
Yes. So we have the believers and the hypocrites are left, and then the Ard al-Mahshar. So the disbelievers have been thrown in the hellfire, the believers and the munafiqeen are left, and then the Ard al-Mahshar turns completely dark. It becomes blackened, that nobody can see anything, except the believers will be given a light according to their good deeds. So you can imagine, like, those that are righteous will be given, like, floodlights or like huge light, mashallah, nur. And then some have flashlights, some have little tiny lights, some will have no light. And then they will be directed to cross the sirat, right? The sirat is the bridge. In some narrations, it is thinner than a hair and sharper than a sword, right? And people will say, like, how can this be possible? How are we going to cross this? But Allahu A'lam, sometimes the physics of things can change, right? Things that were thought impossible 100 years ago are possible now. So how it's going to be, Allahu A'lam, but we know that Allah's Prophet speaks the truth. And people will cross the bridge. Some people will cross like lightning. The Prophet said he will be the first one to cross the bridge, of course, because he is the Maqam al-Mahmud and the leader of the righteous. And then the righteous ones after him. So some will cross like the speed of light, some with like fast horses, some like the wind, some running, sprinting, some jogging, some walking, some crawling, and some will be, pulled into the fire because of their sins. At this point, some scholars say this is when the hypocrites, they will be at the back of the line, and they still think they're going to make it now. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He puts the sur, right, the wall, and they cannot cross the bridge. And they will realize, this is when they, in the surah, it says that بَاطِنُ فِي رَحْمَةٍ. What's the ayah? Basically, the meaning of the ayah is that, one side will be Allah's mercy, that's for the believers that are escaping, بَاطِنُ فِي رَحْمَةٍ وَظَاهِرٌ مِنْ قِبْلِ الْعَذَابِ, and then the back will be the punishment for the disbelievers and the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, right? They won't reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and they will fall into the hellfire to the lowest of levels in the hellfire, right? دَرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ, and that's the punishment that's deserving of them. So even, they try to fool the believers in this world, and they think that they're fooling on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't realize, and look, like, they think that they're finally going to make it and escape this severe punishment, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends them to the hellfire forever, and the lowest of the hellfire, the most severe of punishments, right? And this is deserving for them. So now we only have the believers, and they've crossed the sirat, and then there is something called al-qantara. Anybody know translation for qantara? No, it's like a physical platform, but that's where reconciliation is going to occur, mashallah. Plateau. Let me see. It's kind of like a bridge also, but I guess let me see if I can find something in English. They translate also as bridge, but it's kind of like a narrow passage, or you could say this is like the second bridge. So the first bridge was the Sirat, the skinny one, and this is like a normal type bridge to enter into Jannah. Huh? It's a walkway to get over something, to cross something. So I guess you could say like a lesser bridge or a wider bridge. Basically, this is the bridge into Jannah itself. But the believers will be stopped before crossing that bridge, and this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make sure that there is no hard feelings between any of the believers, because you can't enter into Jannah with having any hatred in your heart towards your fellow Muslims, right? So Allah will settle any disputes between any of the believers, or any rancor or any hard feelings. Everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make sure it's settled, and He will remove al-ghil, right, from the hearts of the believers. So everybody will enter into Jannah with love for one another, right? And then they will enter into Jannah, subhanAllah, and they will know their homes like better than they know their homes in the dunya. And they will start going towards their homes, but then what happens? They remember, wait a minute, what about our brothers and sisters in the hellfire? That they used to be with us in this dunya, and they were Muslims, but they fell short. And they will have some mercy in their heart to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make the shafa'ah that, what about our brothers? So Allah will give them permission to go and take out the believers, the sinful ones, from the hellfire, right? And they will go and they will know them. How will they know them? The marks of the prayers. So the fire will never eat the places that bow down in prostration for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's how they will be recognized. And they will take them out. And the Prophet ﷺ will make a shifa also for the others. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give shifa and take out all of the believers who had even an atom's weight of faith in their hearts, until the final man will come out from the hellfire. You know that story? The last one out of Jahannam who was a Muslim. What is the story? That's the other person we mentioned, but this one, he's even worse than that person. So he's the final one to get out of the hellfire, and he will be like, Allah, if you just remove me from the hellfire, I won't ask for anything else, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, He takes him out, and he stays for a little bit, and then he starts hearing. Yeah. Yeah, and then he said, like, if I can just get closer, just to listen to the people of Jannah, it'll be better than staying here. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, if I do that, you're not going to ask for anything else again. He says, yes. And he goes and puts him closer. And then he says, but if I can just go, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, laughing and, in joy and mercy, you will go into Jannah, and He will have 10 times the earth and everything in it. And that's the last person from Jahannam. Imagine, subhanAllah. Right? And then there's a shafa of the people in Jannah to go to like higher levels with their families. The Prophet ﷺ will make shafa. There's different shafas of the Prophet ﷺ. It's good to learn about those things, inshallah. But if we get into the details, we're going to be here for a long time. So I want to try to get finished Hadith Jibreel. So this is basically the nutshell of Yawm al-Qiyamah itself. And then inshallah, next week we'll hopefully do Jannah, maybe Jannah and Nar, or at least Jannah, inshallah. And then Nar, then we finish al-Iman bil-Yawm al-Akhir, belief in the day of Akhir, and then we'll do Ihsan, inshallah. Yes.
So let's just say somebody wronged a disbeliever in this world, and then they will have to reconcile with each other. So the believer have to reconcile with the disbeliever?
Yeah, they'll have the reconciliation that before everybody gets like put in their final spots. So, like we said before, the scales are being brought forth. There will be a time when everything in the earth will have like a time for reconciliation between the animals, the people, Muslims, non-Muslims. So there won't be any injustice left, right? Also, another major issue is that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring forth al-maut, death, in the form of a ram, and He will slaughter that ram, and then that will be like the final destination. So after all the intercessions, everybody's in Jannah that is supposed to be in Jannah, everybody's in Jahannam, and the hellfire is supposed to be in Jahannam. Then khalas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will slaughter death, and there will be no more death anymore, and those people will live forever in Jahannam, and those people will live forever in Jannah. So that's the end of Yawm al-Qiyamah, inshallah. Then we'll talk about Jannah and Nar, and that will complete the... Yes? So if like one animal beat up another one, for example, or abused... Yeah. Or even like if humans abuse the animals can take the right from the humans on the Day of Judgment too. I don't know about insects. It has to have a ruh in it, and then it has to be in justice. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can kill animals in a sense if you do it properly or for a reason. But if it's a difference from being like abusing an animal, like some people are very cruel to animals. Some people have sicknesses; they're cruel to humans and cruel to animals. SubhanAllah. Like I remember when I was a kid, I went to a friend's house, and like I don't know if what happened to him, but he would like stuff like take his cat, and he came to the house by the tail and like just throw him and stuff like that, and like and even just as a kid, I was like, this is not right, there's something wrong. And then some people, I see it overseas, especially they abuse dogs or they abuse like animals. It's not appropriate for Muslims to do that, So yeah, they will, I think, have their revenge on the Day of Judgment for doing the dhulm. Allah doesn't allow dhulm for anybody or anything.
What are the chances for non-Muslims that believe Jesus they don't believe in Prophet Muhammad? What are the chances for?
So we didn't talk about that, which is a good point. So there will be some that didn't get a chance to hear about the message, right? And then Allah says, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ قَوْمًا حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا, that we weren't going to punish the people until we sent to them a messenger. So some say that they will be given a chance on the Day of Judgment and receive like a message or a test. And if they follow and believe, they pass the test, they will go to Jannah, and if they disobey, then they will go to Jahannam. But the ones who heard the message clearly and still denied it, unfortunately they didn't pass the test, and they will go to the hellfire. And then this is why, there's some narrations that Umar radiallahu anhu, he saw that Christian monk worshipping, and he started crying, and they asked him why, and he's like, this person is like spending his lifetime in trying to do what he thinks is right, but he is astray at the end of the day. He's wasting all his life for nothing. So he was sad that this person didn't have the most important point. Just like, I give the example of if your parents did everything for you, gave you wealth, housing, clothing, education, food, always comfort you, always get you out of trouble, always help you when you were in need and everything like that, and then you go and thank somebody else or turn your back to them, right? What kind of person would that be described as, right? Evil or wrong or messed up. So imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving us every single thing, and including our parents, including everything, and then a person goes and worships something else or turns their back upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So they're missing the point of the dunya. And then it's hard to think that somebody spends their whole life and doesn't bother once to, why am I here? What's my purpose? How did I get here? Where am I going? Who created me? What's the creator? How do I worship? Because you have to fight against that natural inclination. Every human being is born with that fitrah to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they, cover it up and they leave it like that. Khalas, they've chosen their way. Yes.
About like that you won't be prepared until there's a messenger sent to you. See, I thought there was something like, between the time of Isa and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
I think it was called the Fatara, the interval or something.
Fitrah, yeah.
The people were still punished during that interval. For example, like the prophet's parents.
Yeah, but you don't know if they received the message. Because there were people in Mecca that received the message of the Abrahamic faith of worshipping Allah alone, right? And some people rejected that. And, some people knew about the true form of Islam from Isa alayhi salam, what they called what became Christianity, but was really Islam, and they worship, according to the oneness of God and Isa as the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah knows best. Yeah.
But does that message still apply to today? Because the message has been complete.
The message has been complete, but not everybody has received the message. Like, you'll be surprised, even in America, with modern technology and the news and everything like that, there's some people that have no idea about Islam whatsoever. There's certain, segments of society in certain states, they haven't even seen a Muslim in their whole life, like dealt with a Muslim. They don't know about Islam or anything like that, right? So, yes. And the message has to be clear, yeah. Yeah, there are some scholars that say that a person's required to search, if they heard about Islam or they heard that there's something called Islam or the oneness of God, etc., then they have to do some effort, right? They can't just turn their backs towards it. But others say no, they should be delivered the message clearly and understand it, and then they are held accountable. Wallahu a'lam. Yes.
Yeah, I think even if you don't receive the message, if you think about the sign of Allah, still we can conclude He is the God. He is the one.
Yes, that's the fitrah is like that natural inclination to believe in the oneness of God, right? That's the fitrah. To do otherwise is going against the fitrah, so it's societal sometimes, because like the Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّ مَوْلُودٌ يُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ, that every child is born upon the fitrah. وَأَمَّا أَبَوَاهُ فَيُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ أَوْ يُمَجِّسَانِهِ, that his parents makes them into Christians or Jews or Magians, which means that the society has an influence upon that person and covers up the original fitrah. However, if they, exposed themselves or got exposed to that, like they heard something about, there's only one God, or, there's someone called a Muslim, he believes that Jesus is a righteous prophet, not son of God, maybe I should go and find out about this. That awakens the fitrah and they start going and researching and become Muslims, mashallah. But the ones who hear about it and just reject it totally, then they might be out of luck. Wallahu a'lam. Yes. Yeah, so every nation will have a messenger or a prophet, but it doesn't mean that they have to like be alive at that time. But it means that they'll have a messenger sent to them eventually. But there are some who like they live in places that they didn't receive the revelation or they didn't receive the messengership, right? So that's the ones that say that وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ قَوْمًا حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا, that we weren't going to punish the people until we sent to them a Rasul. So if they didn't receive the Rasul, then they're not from that. But the Ummah of Muhammad includes, I think, if I'm understanding with the sister's question, everybody is considered now from Ummah Muhammad from the time of the Prophet until the Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's the final Ummah. So he is the Prophet for everyone, and anybody who hears about him, they're obliged to follow him. If they rejected him, then khalas, they're out of, But if they didn't hear about him, they don't know nothing about him, those are the ones that inshallah they will be given a test Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right? Because Allah will never punish a person, unjustly.
Is it kind of even if you reject a prior prophet, like لا نفرق بين أحد منهم, like it's like the same as rejecting?
If any prophet is rejected, then they disbelieve in all the prophets, right? So, if Banu Israel, for example, accepted every prophet and they rejected Isa, they won't be believers, right? If the Christians accept every single prophet, but they reject Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they won't be believers. Right? So, as part of Iman, you have to believe in all of the Anbiya and all the Rusul. Yes.
Anybody has ever heard of him?
Yes.
Didn't obey him and come to Islam and then find his persecution.
Yes. Yeah. ما سمع به يهودي ولا نصراني وَلَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِي إِلَّا دَخَلَ النَّارِ, that no Christian or Jew hears about me and does not believe in me except they will enter into the hellfire. Right? So the main point is they have to hear about the message, and if they hear about the message and they reject the message, then they are accountable. But if a person never hears about the message, or they're taught something completely different, like saying that Islam is like devil worshippers or whatever, and then they never got a chance to actually explore their affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they might be tested Yawm al-Qiyamah, inshallah. But for sure, Allah will never do injustice to anybody and like punish a person without giving them a chance. Allah knows what's in the hearts. Allah knows everybody's situation. And you'll be surprised, subhanAllah, there are people like that you would never suspect from. I remember one sister, subhanAllah, she actually, no Muslims around her whatsoever. She called Dar es-Salam and became Muslim through the telephone. This is before the cell phones and stuff like that. So she had to call in, and she learned the salah over the phone. We didn't have, and her parents were very like strict Christians, so she was scared to actually show her Islam. So she had to pray in secret for many years. But subhanAllah, she eventually, I think came to this community and married and has one of the good families in Islam, mashallah. So, but the thing is, she searched for something, and she found it, and she became Muslim, even though there was nothing about Islam back then around her. This is before the internet, before the other stuff, subhanAllah. So people, when they have in their hearts to worship Allah, Allah will guide them. Yeah.
What happened if there is a Muslim, but he has bad manners, and then people around him say, "Oh, the Muslim is bad like this." I said, "What is this guy?"
Yeah, that's bad.
Responsible for the.
So the Muslim with a bad character, he can be in trouble Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? That's why Allah, there's a dua that says like, don't make us a fitna for other people, subhanAllah. Why they should not judge Islam by the Muslims, of course, but sometimes people, unfortunately, they're biased. They see this is what the Muslims do, and they follow that. So one has to be careful. Also, we have to be careful of giving da'wah when we're able to do so, because they will also have a right upon you, saying that, like I have this Muslim neighbor or co-worker or friend, and he never told me about Islam my whole life, and he was right there. I have stories of people, they were like crying, saying that they became Muslim at old age, because of researching, but she's like, why didn't you come to me before? Why didn't anybody tell me before? I knew Muslims, they never told me about Islam. I could have died in kufr, in disbelief. So it's also a duty for us to not only have good character, inshallah, but try to spread the word when we're able to do so, to try to, because especially if we're living in a non-Muslim society, it's one of our duties to give da'wah. Yes?
It's an obligation for me to tell about Islam to my neighbors.
I won't say it's, I won't say like maybe a fard, like, fard obligation in that sense, but I would say highly encouraged, inshallah, because, it's just, I think, a right upon us when we're living in this land, that at least they know something, like, invite them to the masjid or give them a pamphlet or put pamphlets in their mailboxes or something like that, Yes, brother.
Even sometimes when you just invite them for dinner,
Yeah.
you don't even have to bring it up, they will bring it up to you.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Come out, they will say it.
Yeah, inshallah. Today, alhamdulillah, we had some non-Muslims come to the gather and grill. MashaAllah, that was nice. Maybe it's, inshallah, a form of da'wah too. Maybe we can have pamphlets out there, inshallah. What's that? Two families, mashallah, yeah. MashaAllah. So maybe we should have some like pamphlets out there, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, yeah, mashallah. Jazakallah khair.
Some companies have a policy.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to talk about religion. Like my company, we are not allowed to talk about religion.
Yeah.
So what happens? Will I leave my company?
No, no. Just try to be your best as a Muslim. Like you can sometimes, you can say a lot without talking sometimes. Like they say that I can't hear you because your actions are too are too loud. Sometimes your actions speak louder than words. So just being a good Muslim, being good character, doing good jobs, praying. Maybe if you're able to pray, stuff like that. That's your da'wah that you can do. That, you know.
And just to order rice food, bring baklava from Palestine. Where is this baklava from? I'm from
Yeah,
Palestine.
mashallah.
It starts it by itself.
Yeah.
They will not allow because
Now
then
you say
they-
baklava from Palestine?
no, because when you work, they say about Palestine, they come from the politics, and then it's allowed. So it's very strict. It's very strict.
Yeah. Yeah, they've become more strict, subhanAllah,
It's
but
impossible even in heaven. You can see people that hurt you during this life in hell.
yeah, we're gonna so this is a preview inshallah, but when we talk about Jannah, one of the like pleasures of Jannah is that you will see those people that did injustice to you or punished or hurt the Muslims or hurt the dhulm and oppression and stuff like that, getting their punishment in Jahannam, right? Like I remember one brother, subhanAllah, he's like, I can't wait, inshallah, to see such and such because he did so much injustice and dhulm. Yeah, I can't wait to see him and like be like,
I know who you're talking
this is what, subhanAllah.
Everybody knows, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I thought like in Jannah, like if someone does good and then like they like did something bad to someone, they will be like Wahshi killed Hamza radiallahu anhu, or they might bump into each other in Jannah.
Yeah, in Jannah they'll be good. All the believers in Jannah are okay, but this is for the disbelievers. They will be like in the hellfire. So the people in Jannah will be like, because sometimes true justice isn't carried out all the way in the dunya, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves it for the akhirah. So they will see justice carried out then, So people that thought they got away with it in this dunya, they won't get away with it yawm al-qiyamah. And the believers that were oppressed or done injustice to, that day they will be able to see their oppressors getting what they deserve, basically.
It's kind of from something you said before, but I think you referenced an ayah from Surah Yasin. It was like اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون.
Yeah.
So could this yaksibun, I guess is like a tafsir of the ayah. Can this also mean like in a good way too, like of what their legs and their arms, or like they were walking to the masjid, they were, I don't know.
Well, this is particularly for the disbelievers. So,
that was for the
yeah. For the believers, alhamdulillah, they will be, ha umqra'u kitabiya, look at my book. Like they'll be talking, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask them, and they will be able to like, mention their good deeds, or Allah knows their good deeds, so they're okay, alhamdulillah. Yeah.
The bad thing about my neighbor, anytime I try to talk Islam to them,
Yeah.
oh, we all the same.
Yes.
Saying, no, you guys believe in Jesus. They keep saying, my Lord Jesus. I said,
Subhanallah.
see? Oh, it's like,
Yeah, that's the problem. Like they don't. Some people don't. They're just so attached to their own particular ways. They don't want to listen to anything. Yeah. SubhanAllah. Yeah, there's some very good people that are, not Muslim, but
I don't know what's one of these interfaith dialogue or something. Interfaith, like
yeah,
some Muslims say, oh, we are the same.
yeah, that's wrong. That's not right. Yeah. Not correct. No, because then why should they become Muslim? Then that doesn't make any sense. Like
problem
there's
is saying the biggest problem is your family themselves
yeah,
arguing with you.
yeah,
You're
that's
not Muslim,
yeah, that's the problem.
and we all worship.
No, we're not. We're just the Abrahamic faith is Islam. ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما. That Abraham was not a Jew or a Christian. He was a Muslim. All the Anbiya were Muslimin. So, in the Deen and the line, Islam. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, religion is Islam. So, these people that say that, we're all the same, and it's not correct and it's wrong, and it actually sends out the wrong message to others. If we're all the same, why should they bother converting to Islam? طيب.
Let's say if we are invited to the interfaith, what should we do?
What's that?
What should we do? Let's say if
Give dawah the proper way. Tell them Islam is, this, and yeah. They won't be invited again. I mean, yeah, that's that inshallah.